I have wanted to do this my whole life. I didn't know that it would be on social media because I didn't know what social media was yet, but I always knew that I was going to be the person to create representation for Reform Jewish culture. I was able to combine my love of comedy, my love of writing, my knowledge of marketing and social media and all of that into one thing.
Welcome back to the podcast, Schmoozers. For those of you that are new here, I'm David Cobby, and I'm on a mission to inspire Jews to be proud of their identity and leverage their personal brands. Before we kick things off, I'd love if everyone could take a second to make sure they're following Schmoozing Time on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and now YouTube. This ensures that you'll stay up to date and never miss any new episodes. This week's guest is probably somebody you've heard of if you've gone down the rabbit hole of Jewish TikTok, so she doesn't even really need an introduction. Before she became TikTok famous, she made a name for herself via her acting career, appearing as a voiceover artist of several Disney productions. Now, she's amassed over 100,000 followers across her social media accounts and has become one of, if not the face of Jewish TikTok. Here to talk about her personal brand, please welcome the one and only Chloe Hechter. Chloe, what's going on? How's your day going?
Hey, good. I'm honored that you think I'm the face of Jewish TikTok.
I mean, listen, you're all over my For You page. You're all over my girlfriend's For You page. You're all over every single Jew's For You page. Like, you're killing it out there. Your videos are fucking hilarious, and they're super relatable. So it's really it's an honor to have you on the show and just talk about who you are.
Yes, so happy to be here.
One of the things I always start by talking about with my guests is your Jewish identity. Obviously, it's a very big part in your life. But, you know, as an outsider looking into somebody like you and knowing your videos, right, people probably think you're just a stereotypical Jew, right?
Right.
From New York, went to summer camp. Like, all these things are like stereotypical Jewish girl, etc. So instead of talking about, you know, maybe your Jewish identity, why don't you start by telling us how your Jewish background is actually unique relative to maybe what people may think about you?
Sure. Okay, so being Jewish obviously has always been a huge part of my identity. I grew up extremely Reform. I was never religious, conservative, modern Orthodox, any of that. I grew up in New York City, so it's just a very, I guess, diverse and liberal city. So obviously, I did grow up around a lot of Jewish people, but I also grew up around everyone, which was amazing. My dad was born in Israel, in Tel Aviv. He came to the U.S. when he was 10, so no trace of an accent, but he definitely is very Israeli. And so that's my dad's side. They are more Israeli, Turkish, Spanish, more Sephardic. And then my mom's side of the family, my mom's father is a Holocaust survivor. And he then moved to the States after the war. He was a baby, and his parents had passed in the camps, and his uncle found him after the war, which was really amazing. And so, yeah, kind of those Jewish Exodus immigration stories on both sides, which is really cool because I always grew up learning about Jewish history and the history of anti-Semitism and why all of this is so important. And I think like now people are starting to learn more about the history of anti-Semitism and Israel and the Holocaust and all of those things. But I did always hold the space for oh my God, I was like, I'm holding space. No, but seriously, I was holding space for the history of Israel. So yeah, I grew up in this Reform household that was Israeli and Ashkenazi. I had kind of both the basic, like my mom's family is from the Bronx and Queens, and my mom's parents are your typical Jewish grandparents, making sure we're fed and wear a jacket and all of those things. And my dad's side of the family is Israeli and a little bit less stereotypical, I would say. So I definitely had all of that in my upbringing. We grew up celebrating the High Holy Days. I actually didn't have a traditional bat mitzvah. I didn't have a party. I just went to Israel with my family. And my brother actually chose, he's younger than me, and he then chose to do the same thing just because of how special that experience was. And I don't regret it at all. And all of my comments on TikTok are like, I bet your bat mitzvah was insane. And it wasn't. It was just my family and a rabbi. And it was so special.
That's amazing. Yeah, yeah. Honestly, like I would have thought like
I had like a musical theater themed bat mitzvah.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks
Exactly. No. Well, I think that's great that you can kind of start this by talking about, how you're unique. And I could definitely relate to the Ashki Sephardi kind of thing. Like my mother is Ashki, like her family originated from Eastern Europe. My dad's side of the family, they're Sephardic. My grandparents are Syrian and Lebanese. So like I kind of have that same kind of thing. So I have to ask you, as somebody that has, half their family Ashki, half their family Sephardi, what's better? Like, what do you like the Ashki side better? Do you like the Sephardi side better? Like, I feel like there's one right.
There are different things. Like, Sephardic food is undeniably better. Like, Israeli food is like the best thing in the world, and Ashki food oftentimes is like fish with mayonnaise. I love like a bagel. I love chicken soup, but like you can put any Israeli dish in front of me and I will likely eat it. I feel like with Ashki food, it's like everything is just wet a little bit. I'm like, okay. So that's definitely an upside to that. But then again, I feel like the Ashki side is a little bit warmer. Like I feel like, I would like cuddle under a blanket with my mom's parents, and my dad's mom passed away before I was born, but like my dad's dad, I feel like isn't the most like cuddly, warm person. It's just, there's definitely a trade.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I sorry to make you pick, but I think
no, it's okay. I think there are ups and downs to both. And something I will say about the Sephardi side is, as a white person, I am tan, which is nice.
Oh my God.
I get tan in the summer. I have those like darker, more Israeli features, whereas like I do think the Ashki side is a little bit more like pale and curly hair, and I definitely got more of the Israeli coloring, which is nice.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat as you. Like in the summer, I get like very, very tan, kind of like you. But you wouldn't think, like looking at me now, that most people assume that I'm Ashki, which I am half Ashki, but I don't like it because the Sephardi side brings more flair. But I think, for you, right, just talking about your Jewish background, you grew up Reform. Obviously, you talked about your family's history of, for example, in the Middle East, being persecuted from the Middle Eastern countries and having your dad born in Israel. Like, you have a lot of rich family history. The one reason, I mean, there's many reasons why I asked you to come on this podcast, but like the main reason why I asked you to come on this podcast is because you're a proud Jew.
Yeah.
And I guess like if you had to like dumb it down to like one thing, why are you proud to be Jewish?
Community. I think there is such an understanding between Jewish people.
Oh my God, yeah.
And that is why creators like myself and like Max Murray Hillboy are so like successful, because these experiences are so universal. And and I'll start to talk about my career and my path a bit. Like I really, really, and you can like look at my diary from middle school, have wanted to do this my whole life. I didn't know that it would be on social media because I didn't know what social media was yet. Sure. But I always knew that I was going to be the person to create representation for Reform Jewish culture. Like I wrote something called Japs the musical when I was like 10. Like I was really like, I was going for it. And I was also a child actor and a theater kid. So I had that camera presence and that sense of humor. I was formally trained in acting and in comedy and in improv. And when I got to college, so I went to a performing arts high school as well. And I frankly hated it. I did not like LaGuardia. But I ended up majoring in drama my freshman year of college. I was like, oh, if I hated this in high school, why did I think that I would like it in college? I ended up switching my major. I did a dual in writing and communications and wrote a lot. I ended up running the fashion magazine at Syracuse for 2 years, which kind of, I guess, gave me that like little influencer vibe. And then so I was able to combine like my love of comedy, my love of writing, my knowledge of marketing and social media and all of that into one thing. And it was really cool. I feel like, you know, going to bar and bat mitzvahs in middle school, I started to like take notes. Like that was something I really always wanted to do. And my grandparents, I used to videotape my grandma as a kid because she would go on tangents about chicken for hours. And I'd just be like, Grammy, smile.
It's so funny because like this is like such, I think kind of like to your point about community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not that Jewish people aren't welcoming outside of the Jewish community. I think, you know, I'm biased, obviously. I think we're both biased. Like Jewish people, I think, are overwhelmingly welcoming.
Accepting. I agree.
But like you were saying, like if I were to tell somebody like a random non-Jewish person, you know, Chloe wrote Japs the musical, people would be like, what? They wouldn't understand it. Like it's just there's some sort of understanding.
My friend just started dating a guy who isn't Jewish, and she met some of his friends who are also not Jewish. And she was like, oh, my friend Chloe is an influencer. Like, do you guys follow her? And they were like, oh, we've never seen her. What kind of content does she do? And my friend was like, oh, it's like Jap content. And they were like, oh, you can't say that, because they thought she meant that like it was like like making fun of like Japanese people, like a slur against. And she was like, no. It like stands for Jewish American Princess.
So funny.
Really funny.
Very funny. Can you talk more about, I'm actually very interested in what Japs the musical was about. Can you talk more about what that was? I want to hear all the plot and everything.
I had 4, it was like short little scenes. It's all very similar to my TikTok. Like everything I do on my TikTok kind of has like a loose base within something I wrote down at one point or another in my life. But so it was 4 girls. It was kind of a similar structure to Sex and the City, where like it was a group of 4 girls, and one of them was kind of more of like the central protagonist, where like she was like the one with more of a head on her shoulders and more like career girl, and like the funny things always like happened to her. And then there was one who just like really wanted to settle down with her camp boyfriend. There was one who always dated non-Jewish guys that you know.
Sure.
And then I think there was one who like worked in finance and was a little more like serious, like the Miranda of the group, if you will. It was so funny. Like I really came up with, and then this song, I just remember I wrote a song, and I still think about this song, and I'm like, one day, the song was called Ungodly Prayer, and it had like lie, 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 like under it, but it would be like praying for things like to lose weight before Cancun, or like to like not be stuck in Scarsdale forever. And you know, that was funny. And then there was this whole thing about like falling in love with a mentally ill boy from the Upper West Side, because that my first love was obviously a mentally ill boy from the Upper West Side.
Oh my goodness. And you wrote how old were you when you wrote this?
So I think I came up with the concept, I think, in 7th grade, and I wrote stuff down, and then I revisited it like my senior year of high school into my freshman year of college. I really did start, though, to have these ideas very young. My friend and I actually would write, like, this is psychotic, but we would write in middle school like fanfic almost about like ourselves and like the people in our school. And that would sort of be in the form of like a script. And I think that was honestly like kind of where I like started, which is insane, but
sure. I think before we go more into kind of how you became this TikTok famous, relatable person, right? I think this really starts with your experience in acting.
Yes.
And, in the intro, I touched on, you did some work with Disney as a voiceover actor. So I want to ask you, how did you get that role at such a young age?
So my first roles were on the Wonder Pets, if anyone's heard of that show. And actually, and I can touch on this later when we talk more about TikTok, my first viral video was about being on the Wonder Pets.
Okay.
But I'll talk about that later. So the Wonder Pets casting people, or it wasn't, I don't know if it was something with the Wonder Pets. They came to my preschool to do kind of like a focus group, where they tested the episodes on what would be the audience. So I was 4, probably. And they had us go around and kind of say what we thought. I guess I was always kind of outspoken. I always had a very strong personality. And when I spoke about what I thought about the show, they liked my voice and they said that they were going to stick around after to talk to my parents, and they had me come in an audition. And I ended up being a recurring voiceover actor on the Wonder Pets from, I want to say, like kindergarten to 3rd grade.
Wow.
Yeah. Or for however that long that show ran, I guess it was like 3 or 4 years. And it was awesome because I was in the show, but I was also, the audience of the show was young kids and toddlers, and that was my friends and I at that age. So people would watch me, and I'd leave 1st grade early to go like record an episode of the Wonder Pets. I'd be like, bye guys. Which was so fun. And then like people would be like, oh my God, does she have lice? And I'd be like, no, I'm just gonna go be on TV. Which was awesome. So that I did that. And then once I had that under my belt, it was that, and I obviously was the lead in my elementary school play. So it kind of became the time that, we would put me in some acting classes, and my parents sent me to French Woods, which is a theater camp, and I absolutely loved it. I could talk for hours about how much I love French Woods. Like my best friend in the world is my best friend from French Woods, and I talk in my bunk group chat literally every single day. So my parents sent me there, and I signed with a manager, and I started doing children's theater plays outside of school, and I was auditioning for Annie and Matilda and Disney Channel and all of those things. And I loved it until I didn't. I think when I was younger, it was like so awesome and so cool to be leaving school to go do this and to say that I was on TV, and frankly, now that I think about it as an adult, to be making money at like 7 years old is wild, And now I'm like, oh, can I get some of that Wonder Pet money back? Like, what's that? Where is that? But so that was like always really, really awesome. And going to say that even like I would audition for Disney Channel, I was in the finals for some Disney Channel shows, and I am grateful that I didn't book them now. I mean, I just think about how different my life would be if I had been the lead in a Disney show at 13 years old. I came very, very close to booking one of the Disney shows that Jenna Ortega was the lead in when she was probably like 12. And she's a few years younger than I am, and I'm very petite. I always kind of looked younger. So I kind of would go in for some of those roles as well. But it was so funny because just knowing how famous she's become, I'm like, that would have been an interesting twist. Like to be Wednesday Addams or something. But yeah, so I was doing that, and then I went to LaGuardia for high school, and I really hated it. And I think the competitiveness and the toxic environment there did make me fall out of love with acting a bit. The Disney voiceover role, I actually got through a kind of a connection to it. And it was a very small role, but it was still a really cool experience. I met Scarlett Johansson and Neil Patrick Harris and Taron Killam and so many really cool people. But yeah.
It's amazing to hear how, you were making money at 7 years old when some people out of school can't even find a job now because of the job market. Like it's
right.
It's amazing. Like
I thank God every day for social media because the job market in, communications, PR, marketing, whatever it is like, it's so difficult to get a job in something that isn't finance. Honestly, it's
absolutely
ridiculous.
Yeah. It's extremely difficult. Like I graduated in May and I know people that are smarter than me and that have better GPAs than me that haven't been able to find a job. But
it's really crazy. When I first graduated, obviously I didn't start social media right away and I really struggled for a period of time, and I had every internship. I was magna summa whatever. Like I should never whatever it's called, magna cum laude, summa cum laude.
Yes, magna cum laude. Yeah, that's what it's
yeah. And I had that, and an honors degree in writing. I had like 4 internships throughout college. I ran the fashion magazine. I was on every newspaper. Whatever, and I was like, couldn't get a job.
Yeah.
Crazy.
No, it's nuts. And I think that kind of segues into what I wanted to talk about next is like paving your own path.
Yeah.
I think, in an industry like theater and acting, there is an opportunity to pave your own path. For example, if you do an audition for a show, right? That audition is only as good as what the judges say it is. I think one thing for you is you kind of paved your own path and started to make content on TikTok. So I know you talked about your first ever TikTok was talking about, your acting career. So tell us how you got into TikTok and why you chose TikTok specifically as a platform to create content on.
Sure. I posted a video back in 2020. It was during COVID. And I think everyone had one viral video during COVID. I think it was hard not to have one viral video during COVID. But I had this one video where the Wonder Pets audio was trending. It was like a baby penguin caught on an iceberg, if you know what that was.
Yes, of course.
So I made a video of myself. I'm in my sophomore dorm. It's like quarantine. Like I was in the shelter of my dorm.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my God. And the fact, like, you could just tell it was 2020. I'm wearing like my Shein, like, dragon shirt. Like, you just know it was 2020. It's so funny with like the micro trends of it all. It's
sure.
It's a time capsule.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm mouthing along to those lyrics, and I just wrote text saying I was on the Wonder Pets as a kid. If you were also on the Wonder Pets, duet this video. I think I was hoping to get like a Talia Dunn repost or whatever, because she was also she's quite famous and she was on that show. And she was always famous. She was like a big YouTuber following the Wonder Pets.
Mm-hmm.
So the video blew up, but the reason that the video blew up wasn't because people were impressed. It was because people thought I was lying. Which, to say like, oh yeah, I was in like 6 or 7 episodes of the Wonder Pets, that's like a really specific lie. Like if you're lying, like go for like I voiced SpongeBob. Like, like go a little broader with the lie. But people were arguing in the comments like, no, Google her. It comes up. No, but if you Google the Wonder Pets, she's not on the main cast. No, her IMDb says this. Like, it was really an entire thing, which is just hilarious. And apparently there was a girl who was at Carnegie Mellon, which is like the most prestigious acting program. They take like 8 people there was a girl at Carnegie Mellon saying she was the Bumblebee in the Wonder Pets, and that was my role. And so people were like, oh my God, it was the craziest thing ever. Needless to say, that video got like 3.5 million views. And since it was COVID, it was a lot easier to gain followers. And I gained about like 19,000 followers just from that video. And during college, I was a student. I was embarrassed to post. I didn't have like all these ideas yet. Wasn't totally sure of like who I was yet. I was, switching my major and wanting boys to like me and wanting the older girls in my sorority to think I was cool. And I wasn't posting. I thought it was going to be like weird or cringe. But I just had all these followers kind of like sitting there, and I would probably post once a month, and it would just be like me and my friends being like, let's go to ZBT. Like, it wasn't anything like, so then at the end of senior year, maybe like a week before graduation, I was in the finals for my dream job and I didn't get it. And I was devastated, crushed, left my senior formal sobbing, I was down bad. Felt horrible about everything. And my roommate and I, one of my best friends, we just decided to watch a bunch of Disney movies. And there is a Disney movie for literally everything except for us, except for the Jews. And I noticed that because it's like you have the Hawaiian princess and the Italian boys and I was like, where are we? Mm-hmm. So I made a TikTok saying that I think Disney's next princess should be a Jewish American princess. And instead of a prince, it's a boy in a pie. And he's struggling with her nose and her frizzy hair. And she's the last one in her bunk to get boobs. And then suddenly they grow overnight and she needs a breast reduction. And it's all these things. And that video blew up. And I was getting comments from Liv Schreiber and Carly Weinstein and Jewish creators who I'd looked up to. And I was like, but there's something here. And Liv Schreiber DM'd me about Camp Social. And I was like, whoa, this is a big deal. And so that took me from 19,000 to 20,000 followers, which obviously isn't anything crazy. But that summer was a really rough summer for me. It was just that post-grad summer. I was working retail at Love Shack Fancy because I didn't have a job yet and I wanted to make money. I also wanted some structure. And so I maybe posted once a week during the summer. Not as much, but there were definitely some videos that would start to kind of do well. But I wasn't taking it as seriously. The second I kind of decided to start to take it seriously, October 7th happened, and I was too scared to post until 2 months after that, I would say. Just because I was seeing some of the comments that other Jewish creators would get, and I just didn't know how I would be able to handle that. And then, I don't know, one morning in February, I just woke up and I was like, I have so many ideas. I should just do this. Mm-hmm. And I started posting 5 times a day, which is insane. I don't post 5 times a day anymore. But when I started, I did. And I would post 2 skits, and then I would literally post my dinner and me watching The Bachelor with my friends. And literally whatever I was doing, I would post. I would be like, I just saw a cute boy in the elevator. I would just, yeah. And that happened. And then I think it was March 3rd. It was the very beginning of March. And I did a video with one of my best friends who happens to be really fucking funny. She is a corporate girl, but she just the way she speaks, it's just her natural delivery. I don't think she would ever necessarily want to be a comedian. She's just a funny friend. And we did that video that now is pinned to my page. It has 5 million views, and everyone in their mother has seen it. It's not just like a niche thing. Like everyone has kind of seen that one. And it's my friend Haley and I doing like getting ready for a camp social. And I'm like, oh, my shorts are they slutty enough? Like, but we'll like get in trouble for wearing them. And like, we're straightening our hair and we're like, get out of the bathroom. We need 5 more minutes, like whatever it is. And it was so funny. Like I don't even know. And that video, like it had like 100,000 views in the first hour. It had 1 million views like the first like 12 hours probably. Like it just really went viral.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I have this momentum and I'm just going to like really full send it.
Yep.
And I've been growing ever since. And I didn't start posting on Instagram, honestly, until the summer. Like my Instagram was very much just like me posting maybe once a month of like me and my friends or like a cool picture of me on vacation. Like I was never someone who like posted their like content on Instagram, but excuse me, you kind of need Instagram, I feel like, for brand deals, which I didn't realize until I spoke to some, managers and such.
Sure.
And I will say the events and the brands of it all is so amazing. It's obviously that's not why I do it, but to have received this candle that's the size of my entire body, that smells like Christmas is wonderful, and I'm so happy about it.
It's amazing. I think just hearing about your content creation journey, I think just one thing to like kind of like really hone in on is like just you being silly and being out there and posting as many times as you can. We were talking about how when you're in college, right? I was in ZBT at Maryland, and like
okay, I was in AEFI at Syracuse, so
okay, literally like stereotypical Jewish schools, right? Like you have to adhere to like a certain standard, right? I think everybody who was ever in a frat or sorority can relate to is that you have to put on a certain like act
right.
That leap forward.
And I definitely, having had like the personality I do, I wasn't in the like big jappy friend group in my sorority. I mean, I was well liked, like no one ever had a problem with me, but I definitely wasn't in that like clique. My friends and I sort of did our own thing, and I was always just very observant.
Sure.
And and it's so funny because now, of course, everyone that was has ever known me ever is like, oh, gee, you're doing amazing, best friend, like, because that's how it happens. But
yeah, no, I definitely feel like it's important, especially now, today, to like separate yourself from everybody else. You almost have to be posting on social media. We were talking about earlier the job market and how competitive it is. I think it's important, somebody like you that's a content creator focuses on monetizing on their brand because you have a unique kind of content creation platform where you're not a Jewish content creator that's promoting stuff about anti-Semitism in Israel.
Right.
Which like
that's something I really wanted to get into. And I don't want to sound like I have an ego, but I feel like Max and I like really reinvented the Jewish social media.
I agree.
And we both started around the same time, and he's fucking hilarious. Like I die laughing at all of his videos. I did a collab with him and we had so much fun. He's lovely. But it's really just all of these boutiques in Chappaqua and White Plains and wherever, those kind of more like stereotypical Jewish or Jappy areas will reach out to us. I speak at BBYO conventions and JCC conventions, and I have 17-year-old Jewish girls looking up to me, and it's not because I'm standing there preaching some sort of political agenda. It's because I'm making them laugh, and I'm 23 and I'm navigating my life, and I'm living alone for the first time. I'm dealing with dating and relationship stuff in real life, in real time. They're watching me get ready for influencer events, my first time going to these things, and they're watching me open PR. And if you watch a video of me opening PR, like, you'll see regular influencers being like, I just got this gorgeous candle. I literally am like, holy shit, like, I can't believe they sent me this, because I'm like a little kid in a candy store. I'm so excited. I can't believe that, like, people want me to have these things, you know? And yeah, I think I practice a lot of gratitude. Like, that's just something, like, literally every Sunday night I journal and I write down what I'm grateful for in my life. It really helps me with anxiety, because I'm also a very anxious person, and that's also something I've been open about on my page. I've struggled with anxiety since I was a little kid. I was in therapy since I was 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, kind of going back to what you were saying earlier, I actually like content creators that are talking about Jewish culture outside of the negative things that are going on. And that's kind of the goal with this podcast, right? Is I'm not going to sit here and talk about all the horrible shit that happens to Jewish people, right? And like, it happens and it sucks, right?
Scrolling can get so depressing.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm just scrolling through, because you can get, like, lost in post after post about October 7th and a hate crime at a synagogue and students dead, and even not about anti-Semitism. If you're doom scrolling on the internet, you know, kids committing suicide, like, it's just like, it's difficult to even digest, like, so many things that are going on in the media. Absolutely. I have to say, Wicked has been a lovely little distraction from the world, because Wicked has taken over all social media, and I'm like, you know what? I will take Ariana holding Cynthia's finger any day over, like, watching a whole war
right
go down. But yeah, I think comedy is such a respite for a lot of people, and for me as well. Like, I don't like to watch dramas or horror or any of that. I really exclusively watch comedy, because I'm so anxious and empathetic that, like, if I start to watch something that's, like, serious, like, I will feel it. Mm-hmm. And so I've always wanted to, like, create comedy and make people laugh and give people that, like, mindless, like, escape from whatever else they're seeing on their For You page, whatever else is going on and around. And I also think, like, my primary audience being teenagers is kind of great, because being a teenager is so hard. And that is when you're trying to figure yourself out, I would say, the most. I mean, obviously, you know, we're in our 20s. We're still trying to figure ourselves out. But we do have that sense of self, and we have a bit more life experience, and we've hopefully found support systems. In high school, I, like, had one friend and cried every single day, and, like, never had a boyfriend. And, you know, it was just, like, it was a stressful time. And I would have loved to have, like, a quirky Jewish girl who, like, makes funny videos about being Jewish, but also, like, is kind of a typical just, like, girl in her 20s who's, like, doing her makeup and going on dates and hanging out with her friends, you know?
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean in that sense. And I mean, again, like, what you're doing is so great, because it's kind of deflecting that negative energy and turning it into something more positive, which I personally resonate. And why I'm doing this podcast is not to sit here and talk about all the bad shit that happens to us. It's more of, I want to highlight people that are doing really cool things in the Jewish community with their brand and turning it into positivity and pride. And mm-hmm. I think with your content specifically and all the collabs that you do, I know you're talking about, speaking at BBYO, and I know you've done some stuff with Birthright and that area. Like, it's cool that you get to do all these things within the Jewish community and partner with all these amazing organizations that like every single Jewish American kid gets to interact with. People want to genuinely work with you, and which is why like your content is amazing and you're super marketable. So
Right.
for somebody that's listening to this podcast that wants to get into, whether it's the content creation space or wants to make themselves more marketable, what do you recommend to them to make themselves a more marketable person?
2 things. The first thing, and I would honestly say the main thing, is consistency, because there are some people who can like blow up just from posting their makeup routine every single day.
Yep.
Just because they do it every single day.
Yep.
And that's good for those people. I wish I was one. I'm not that type of girl. I never was, but that's okay. Sure. The other thing I would say is to find your hook, because anyone can take you on a day in their life. Anyone can show you an outfit. Anyone can go to a restaurant or a workout class or whatever that is. Find something that makes you unique. Like find your hook, And so one of my best friends really has the personality for this, and she has such a keen eye for social media. And we literally just sat down and we were like, what is your hook going to be? Because there's like one thing that she's so good at, but I'm like, but someone else already does this. So if you did this, you would have to angle it towards this. Like, it's really interesting. Like my friend, she's amazing at like fashion and design history and trend forecasting. And there's actually a girl who went to Syracuse who does that. And she's got like hundreds of thousands of followers. And she's literally like, everything I buy is because she tells me to buy it. Like, frankly, like she has just such a great eye. But I have a friend who kind of does the same thing, but she didn't, start her TikTok journey, that early. So I was trying to like angle it to be more like, okay, so my friend is, Jewish and like, more like of a curvy girl with curly hair and like whatever. And so this other girl is very like thin and blonde. And, so I was like, maybe you can kind of angle it more towards that, like every girl type. And not to say that this other creator doesn't, because she does a great job, but you know what I mean? It's just sort of like, I guess, a more generally relatable vibe.
Right. Yeah. I think you bring up a good point of like finding your hook, and it's not just for like content creation, right? That you have to find your hook in today's very competitive environment. Like you have to be able to find your hook, whether it's in business or, in the acting space. So you have to find your hook. So I think that's definitely something that's super important.
And another thing is like, you need to have a constant stream of ideas. Mm-hmm. You need to just be pounding out ideas, because, if you're out of ideas, then you're done. And so I have like pages and pages of scripts and skit ideas and like things I want to do. And like there are certain skits that like I know I probably won't do for a little bit because they'll take XYZ planning and props and things. Like I want to do one like Joe Biden retires to Boca. And like I'm aware for that I would need to get some sort of like old man wig, and I need to like really watch. Like I don't have like a Biden impression on lock. Like need to, you know what I mean? But I want to do like he's retiring to Boca, and all the like Jewish grannies are like, oh my God, is that Joe Biden? My late husband would forgive me. Like,
So funny. I think there's something to be said about like honing in on impressions and like making sure that your content is like the best it could be. There's definitely a balance between, being consistent, putting out content, but then also like if you're putting out like shit content,
right?
Like there's definitely a balance.
No, you need to be putting out quality content. And yeah, I mean, I can't do a shit Biden impression. What good would that do?
Yeah, exactly.
And people do kind of love the subtle political humor. Like I had that skit about like the NYU girl who has a crush on Barron Trump, and I've done like 3 iterations of that, and people love it.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's also like one of the videos of mine that's hit over 1 million because people just love it.
Mm-hmm. People love funny content. And in a world where there's so much crazy stuff going on, it's been sort of like healing for people across social media.
Mm-hmm.
And Chloe, personally, like I'm excited to continue to see your content on social media, whether TikTok gets banned.
I'm in such denial of it getting banned. And not to like get into politics, I am really adamantly against Trump, dislike him, but I do think he'll save TikTok.
Really?
I don't know. I think he's got like a soft spot for it.
Maybe. We'll see what happens. This has been a phenomenal conversation. And before I let you go, where could people, I know most people listening to this can find you on social media, but where could people find you across all accounts on social media?
Yes. So my username is literally just my name. It's Chloe Hechter, but with the extra R at the end because someone took Chloe Hechter. She has like 6 followers and her bio is like Portugal. And I'm like, girl, like what's going on? Like, where's my domain at? But I did the extra R like in college to be like kind of sexy and cool, and I never changed it. And now that I have followers, I just am not gonna like change my username because that's kind of crazy.
Sure.
But yeah, Instagram and TikTok are my biggest platforms. I don't really use any other platforms. I am on Cameo. And it's also just my name, and you can get a Cameo from me for like somewhere from $25 to $35. I will wish you a happy birthday, a happy Hanukkah, and I'll talk to you about whatever your person gifting you. I did one for like an A pie president yesterday.
Nice.
That was flip A, you know.
Awesome. Well, Chloe, thank you again. Make sure, I would imagine most of you who are listening to this are already following Chloe, but if you're not following Chloe and need a little comedy pick me up on Jewish humor,
Well, yeah,
follow Chloe. Like,
definitely.
She's got amazing content. Like, I'm not just here saying, oh, she has great content. Like, genuinely, like when I do find myself doom scrolling, they're through Chloe's videos and Max's videos. Wow.
Wait, there was one video that Max did that I was like dying laughing, and I feel like even if I didn't know him, it was the type of thing that I was just like, this is hilarious. The parents at the bar mitzvah, that's like my favorite video of his, when they're like, Larry, I want a divorce, and then the parents have to go like on stage. I like die every time.
I have to say his Jewish mother impression might be a little bit better than yours.
I'm aware of that. I have received that insult before, and it's okay. It's okay. I take pride in it. I think I play a better 13-year-old girl.
You do.
So it's okay.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the podcast. Make sure to follow Schmoozing Time on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Also, make sure to follow Schmoozing Time on whatever platform you are listening to this podcast on. Until next time, keep schmoozing.